Shrishtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Supam Rupam Tasagrajamuri Purim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundamagiribaram Ahoradika Marvasam Raptu Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Tam Natosmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hemabhadyavyatchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Bhaktya Bhina Aparada Lakshay Chitasta Kamari Param Kamari Kripa Mahikam Sharanam Prapadam Vrinde Namaste Charanaravinda Vrinde Namaste Charanaravinda Govinda Shama Sundar Shikanda Shikar Smaraha Samurali Manohara Radhika Rasikumama Kripanidhe Sapriyachana Kinkurim Kuru Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Dayabina Iti Vikaya Devi Tam Nayamaham Charanantikam. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmadir Paramaradatam Guru Pada Padma, Nitya Leela Pravisht Om Vishnupad, Stotara Sata Shishimad, Rupanuga Acharya Varya, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Vancha Kalpataru, Hare Krishna. So yesterday we discussed how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the basis of the confidential meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, revealed the topmost place of the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. So it was very easy to listen to, very entertaining and enjoyable. But today we want to come down a little to discuss the Siddhanta of Srimad Bhagavatam. The pastimes of Sri Krishna, they are the Rasa Mahal, the palace of Rasa. But if you try to build a tall and beautiful palace without a deep foundation, it will come crumbling down. Therefore, Srila Shukadev Goswami Pad here said, Dasamasya asya visuddhyatam navanam hiya lakshanam vanayanti mahatmanaha sutena chandasa. The Srimad Bhagavatam discusses 10 topics. Atrasago visagascha stanam poshnam uttaya Ishanukata Manvantari Shanukata Nirodi Mukti Asraya. 10 topics. The last topic, the 10th topic, Dasamasya Visuddhyatam. In order to give a very clear and pure understanding of the 10th topic, Navanam Hiya Lakshanam. First, the 9 other topics of creation, primary creation, secondary creation, how the Supreme Lord maintains His devotees, the mercy of the Lord upon His devotees, His various incarnations, the liberation, and so on. All these other topics have been discussed to help us understand the 10th topic. Otherwise, if these tatastha lakshana, extrinsic characteristics of Bhagavan, are not understood fully, then we'll not understand clearly His Swarup Lakshana, His intrinsic characteristics. Therefore, Srila Shukadev Goswami, Srila Suta Goswami, Srila Vyasadeva, all the expert speakers of Bhagavatam, they don't begin with Krishna Lila in Vrindavan in the first canto. So don't think that 9 cantos leading to the 10th canto, that they are superfluous. There is nothing superfluous in Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is important. So Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Pad here said, Siddhanta baliya chitte na karo alas jahoite Krishna lagi sudrida manas. When it comes to understanding Siddhanta, philosophical principles, na karo alas, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. The implication is that to understand Siddhanta is not so easy. It will require some effort on our behalf. And what is the purpose of this? Jahoite Krishna lagi sudrida minas. If you make an effort to understand the Gaudiya Siddhanta, then your mind will become very firmly fixed and very firmly attached to Sri Krishna. Our Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established Gaudiya Mat. What is the meaning of mat? Is it something you wipe your feet on when you come in the house? No? What does it mean? It's not mathematics. Gaudiya Mat. Mat means Matanti Vasanti Chatraha iti Mataha. The word mat means the place where students live together for studying. They come together to deeply study Shastra, Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly the interpretation and the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed into the heart of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami. So, if we don't do this, it is inevitable that our mind will be filled with so many misunderstandings, so many misconceptions, so much kalpana, imagination, So I want to speak this evening, discuss this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, verse 10. We can chant the verse together. It's a very deep, mysterious and beautiful verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. If someone will understand it, it will completely revolutionize their vision of everything, of life, of time, of space. And it gives the key to understanding the necessity of Sri Guru and service connection, relationship with Sri Guru and pure Vaishnavas. We know that sometimes it's considered by outsiders that this is a very dogmatic thing. Why do you need Guru? And then those who perhaps have Guru, then later they think, oh, I don't need association because I had some before. So the importance of association, that is essential. And the relationship with Guru, all these things will become very clear that they are not dogmatic, but they are axiomatic principles which are a logical necessity when we understand the nature of reality. So we can chant the verse. Yada sisrikshu pura atmana paro raja srijatesha pritak swamayaya sattam vitrita surirang surisvara shayisyamanas tama irayatyaso yada sisrikshu pura atmana paro raja srijatesha pritak swamayaya sattvam vichitra surirang surisvara sayisyamanas tama irayatyaso. We should do odd number, it's more auspicious. Yada sisrikshu pura atmano para raja srijatesha pritak swamayaya sattvam vichitra surirang surisvara sayisyamanas tama irayatyaso. Here, the general meaning, Sri Shukadev Goswami is explaining. Yada means when. Sisrikshuhu, desiring to create the world. Pura means body. The Atmanaha, for himself. Paro, supreme. Then in the third line, Ishvara, Supreme Lord Ishvara. When the Supreme Lord wants to create bodies, that is prior to the manifestation of the universe, Raja Srijatesha, he sends forward Rajagun, Swamayaya, by his energy, Maya. And what does that do? Pratak. It separates Rajagun from the other gunas, because before the creation, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are in equilibrium. So there's no perception of differentiation between them. When he wants to create by his Maya, then he breaks the equilibrium of the gunas, that become separated, and thus creation begins. All the elements, Mahat, Ahankar, Buddhi, Manas, Shabda, sound, space, all the elements down to earth manifest. Sattvam vittita surirangsu Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, when he wants to enjoy pastimes in this world, then by sattva he maintains it for some time. Shayisyamanas, and when he wants to go to sleep, when it's time to finish the creation, Supreme Lord, when he's about to rest, then he inspires tamas, and by that the universe is dissolved, and then the Purush goes to sleep. And this is the meaning of the verse. So it has very confidential meaning. This is what we want to develop and discuss today in our lecture. To illustrate the principles of Leela Tattva, and the mystery, the purpose behind creation. Supreme Lord has manifested many pastimes, and one of them is described in the 8th canto just after this. Shukadev Goswami will illustrate all these principles. He said that once Indra was riding upon his elephant, and Durvasa Rishi came there. Durvasa Rishi felt compassion for Indra, and he blessed him. He took off his garland and gave his garland to Indra. But Indra, not properly respecting the position of a sadhu, he just took that garland and instead of wearing it himself, he put it on the head of his elephant as a decoration. The elephant thought, what's this thing on my head? And he just grabbed it and threw it on the ground and trampled it with his feet. So Durvasa Rishi was not impressed. So one of the golden rules of life is don't upset Durvasa Rishi. At once he gave a curse. He said, Indra, you and your whole dynasty and all your associates will be bereft of all opulence. And because of that curse, we see that shortly after that, the Asuras, headed by Bali Maharaj, became extremely powerful. They invaded heaven. There was a big battle, and Indra and the devotees were defeated, vanquished. Many of them were injured and dying. They were suffering so much. And then they thought, what can we do? So then Indra and the devotees, they went to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma told them, we should go to the ocean of milk and offer prayers to the Supreme Lord to take his advice on how you can become free from this suffering condition and attain victory over the demons. So then Brahma and all the devotees, they came to the shore of the ocean of milk. And they offered prayers to the Lord. And then there was a blinding light, and the Supreme Lord appeared and told them how they can resolve their situation. He said, you'll become strong, you'll become powerful again if you can churn the ocean of milk and attain the amrita, the nectar from that ocean. Jai Sisi Radha Govinda Ju Ki Jai. He said you should put all different types of herbs in the ocean, and you should bring the Mandara mountain and the snake Vasuki. Use him as the churning rope and the Mandara mountain as the churning rod. And you should make a truce with the demons. Because you're at a disadvantage now. You won't be able to churn the ocean by yourself. Make a deal with them that if they combine together with you, then you can share the nectar together. He said, because you are in this weakened condition, you have to use the logic of the snake and the mouse. Do you know the logic of the snake and the mouse? Once a snake and a mouse, they were captured inside a basket. So if they'll stay there, then both of them, they may die. So the mouse, the snake, thought, I can eat this mouse. But if I eat the mouse, I won't be able to get out of the basket. So let me make friendship with the mouse, and the mouse can eat a hole in the basket, and then I'll be able to get out, and then I'll eat the mouse later. So it's a momentary truce just for the sake of using the other person, and then you can defeat them afterwards. So the Supreme Lord was essentially saying this to the demigods, make a truce with them now, and then when the nectar comes, you'll get the nectar. They'll not get the fruit of the work, but you'll get the fruit of the work, and then you'll become strong, healthy, and you'll be able to defeat them. He said, but during that time of churning the ocean of milk, never become angry. Always remain calm and peaceful and patient. Because one's goal in life can be attained by remaining calm, peaceful and patient. But if one becomes angry, disturbed, everything will be lost. So whatever the demons suggest, you just accept that without argument. So having instructed them in this way, then the Supreme Lord disappeared. So now Indra, he had his plan and he put it into action. He left with some of his associates, but with no armor, with no weapons. And they approached the encampment of Bali Maharaj and the demons. So when the generals of Bali Maharaj saw Indra approaching with some of his associates, they jumped up to draw their weapons. But Bali Maharaj stopped them. No, don't do anything. They've not come for a fight because they're not wearing their armor. They haven't bought their weapons. Just be patient. Let's see what they have to say. So then he received Indra and heard his proposal. Indra was proposing, let's make a truce. By working together we can get this very rare substance, nectar, by which we'll become immortal. So then when Bali Maharaj heard this, he thought, this is a good idea. By ourselves we would not be able to do it. But if we make an alliance with the devotees, then we can produce the nectar and then we'll take it all for ourselves by utilizing the logic of the snake and the mouse. Okay, so both sides were thinking that they were the snake and the other side was the mouse, basically. So they're all ready, they're all friends, they're all collaborating, but in the ultimate issue, they're all trying to double-cross each other. Material world. So, they set off on their mission. The demons and demigods, first, they went to bring Mandara mountain. So they're very strong. They went to the mountain and they all together lifted and they uprooted the mountain. And they began to carry it. But they carried it only a short distance and it was just too heavy and they dropped it. And some of them had broken arms and legs and they were all suffering. They thought, this is terrible. What shall we do? So then, the Supreme Lord, he appeared there on the back of Garuda. And the Supreme Lord very easily just picked up the mountain, put it on the back of Garuda, and they set off. And they brought the mountain to the shore of the ocean of milk. And then, Supreme Lord, in his incarnation of Ajit, he dismissed Garuda. Okay, now you can go. Because they had to call Vasuki to be the rope. So Vasuki is not going to come if Garuda is there. Because snakes and Garuda don't mix. So he dismissed Garuda. Here we see that the demons and demigods, they're quite lame and impotent. Without the help of the Supreme Lord, they cannot fulfill this mission. So then they invoked Vasuki, and Vasuki came there, and they wrapped Vasuki around the mountain. And then they wanted to churn. But when they put the mountain into the milk ocean, it just sank. And they couldn't do anything. Now what shall we do? Again they were at a loss. Another incarnation of the Lord appeared. Lord Kurma avatar. And swimming through the ocean of milk, he went under the water and he took the mountain on his back and lifted it. And then they could begin to churn. So then the Lord lifted the mountain and in another incarnation appeared on the top. So he's holding it on the bottom and at the top. And he was standing with the devotees in the form of Ajit to assist them in churning. So already we have 3 avatars, incarnations of the Lord have been involved in this one Leela so far. So then when it was time to churn, Vasuki was wrapped around the mountain and his tail was going this way and his head was going that way. So the demigods, they all went over to where the head was and they went to pick it up to start churning. And then the demons, they looked at the tail and then they looked at the demigods and they looked at each other. They said, hey, we are more qualified, more aristocratic than you. Why do you have the head and we have the tail? head is superior to the tail. And so all the demons, they went on strike. We're not doing this. So then the demigods, they thought, oh, Supreme Lord instructed us, whatever the demons are saying, don't resist it, don't quarrel with them, just agree. Have peacefulness and patience, and you'll be successful. So very calmly, the demigods, remembering this, they walked over to the other side, and they took the tail, and then the demons went and took the head. So then they began to churn. But it was very, very difficult. They were struggling. Vasuki was being strangulated. He was coughing, and smoke and fire and poison was coming out of his mouth. All the demigods became burnt by the fire and the smoke coming from him. Then they realized, we should have stuck with the tail. The demons. They were suffering so much because they chose the head. And the demigods were realizing what wisdom was there in the words of the Lord. Be calm, be peaceful, don't be angry, don't get into a fight with anyone. So, they were failing. Vasuki thought he was going to die. He was being stretched so much and tortured by this, being the churning room. So then, the Supreme Lord, as it's mentioned here in this verse, that when the Supreme Lord wants to create and perform pastimes, He empowers the different gunas. He empowers the different gunas. So, He empowered Sattva Gun to give more strength to the demigods for the churning. Otherwise, they couldn't churn. They didn't have the strength. He empowered the demons with the mode of passion, so they would have more strength for the churning. Otherwise, they couldn't. And He empowered Vasuki with the mode of ignorance. So ignorance makes you dull and inert, so you can't feel anything. So he couldn't feel anything, so he wouldn't be suffering so much from being used as the churning rope. So this is a fact, that when the Supreme Lord appears in this world, the demigods assist Him, but actually they have no power to assist Him. The demons go against Him, they resist Him, but the demons have no power to resist Him also. So when the Lord is involved in these battles and different things like that, then it's only because He empowers the demons that they can play a role in resisting Him, even. And then it makes the Leela interesting, fascinating. There's more excitement in it. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna said, these three gunas are competing with each other. Right? So He said that the gunas cannot simultaneously increase or decrease. Because when one guna goes up, the others have to go down. And when the other one goes up, then the others go down. That's the nature of the three gunas. But when the Supreme Lord comes and performs pastimes, through His Kriya Shakti, we can see this is an instance where Sattva went up to inspire the devatas, Tamas went up to inspire Vasuki, and Rajas went up to inspire the demons. So that's all. Everything about this Leela is impossible actually. That's why it's a Leela and not a material activity. See, Krishna said, Janma karma chame divyam evamyo veti tattva. My appearance, my activities, they're all divya. Even when He's interacting with mundane persons. Because essentially, the demigods are trying to enjoy by being religious, but with inclination towards the Lord. And the demigods, they also try to do dharma, but without inclination towards the Lord, to get their powers, and also try to enjoy. So these are like materialistic persons to various degrees. Yet the Lord, it seems that He's interacting with them. But actually, Supreme Lord is never interacting with His material energy. Supreme Lord interacts only with His internal potency. And the Kriya Shakti of His internal potency acts on the external energy to increase the gunas, and then He's not really assisted by the demigods or resisted by the demons. he's assisted and resisted by his own internal potency. But to the eyes of an ordinary person, it seems like God has come in the material world and he's doing some kind of karma now, interacting with the good and bad and being partial, taking the side of the good guys and being against the bad guys. But never. Supreme Lord interacts only with his internal potency. This is part of the Lila Tattva. So now the churning went on, and then from the ocean was produced Uchaishrava, a horse. And Bali Maharaj took the horse. Then Airavata, the elephant. And Indra took the elephant Airavata. So many different substances. Kaustuba money was taken, Kaustuba came, and it was taken by Lord Ajita. Apsaras appeared. But actually before all this, actually poison came first. And everyone was terrified. And they took shelter of Lord Shiva, but as you know, Lord Shiva took the poison in his throat and he saved everyone. Then the various substances manifested, and in the end, now fourth incarnation of the Lord in this pastime so far appeared, Dhanvantari. So Dhanvantari appeared with the pots, with the Amrita. And immediately the demons, their true colors came out, so they jumped up and grabbed the pot and went running. So one demon had the pot, and then another demon tried to grab it. Give it to me, no, give it to me. No, I'm more aristocratic than you. I am senior to you. I joined the demons first, before you. So they were arguing with each other, trying to get the nectar from each other. And there were so many weak demons as well. The weak demons were saying, look, people, the demigods also worked hard to get this. We should all share it equally. So the weak demons were into democracy and equality. Everything's in the Bhagavatam. So then there were so many weak demons, and they stopped the more powerful demons from being able to taste the nectar by saying, no, we have to share it out equally amongst everyone. And so this was going on, and the demigods became dismayed. We did all this hard work. But Supreme Lord, He had told them, you will get the fruit of this, not the demons. So then what happened? Fifth incarnation of the Lord in this pastime. Who was that? Mohini Murti, yes. Mohini Murti appeared. Very, very beautiful, very charming and attractive. And all the demons, when they saw her, they were astonished. They were attracted. Oh, who are you? What is your name? They all wanted to marry her, actually. And she said, oh, I don't know why you have interest in me. I am just an independent woman wandering here and there like a prostitute. And the demons were laughing. Oh, she has such a sense of humor. She's just joking with us. So they said, look, we're arguing. You can settle this. You decide what we should do. So then Mohini said, all right. Give me the nectar and I will distribute it in a fair way. And when the demons, they came under the control of her beauty. So they didn't want to argue with her in any way because they thought they would lose favor with her. So it was arranged that she would distribute the nectar according to her own desire. So all the demons, they took baths, they decorated themselves, and the demigods also, and they arranged their asanas with the demons on one side and the demigods on another side, and they sat down on their asanas and they waited for... no, not really.
Can I put it back?
Well, just put it on the seat there, just put it right there, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, they were all sitting down and waiting. But Mohini Murti, she took the nectar and she was glancing towards the demons and smiling. They're all smiling back. And she just took the nectar and she went right over to where the demigods were and began to give all the nectar to them one by one. But because they were so attached to her, they didn't complain. They didn't want to upset her in any way. They were all completely bewildered. But as you know, one of the demons, Rahu, he disguised himself as a devata and he went and sat in the line where the devatas were, in between Surya and Chandra, the sun and the moon. He sat down between them and he was waiting. I'm not going to get fooled by this woman. I'm going to get this nectar. And the sun and the moon, they were so afraid of Rahu that they didn't want to say anything. But just when Mohini was coming to him, then they raised their eyebrows. Hey! They tried to indicate to her that this is a demon, don't give him the nectar. But she gave, a drop of nectar came in his mouth, and when they revealed who he was, then it wasn't Mohini with the chakra, it was actually Ajit, the other form, the forearm form of the Lord. By his chakra, he cut the head of Rahu. So, but because his head had been touched by the nectar, he didn't die, he remained alive. So Lord Brahma made his head into a planet. And because he was so upset with the sun and the moon, every now and then Rahu attacks the sun and the moon. And that's called the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, right? We just had big lunar eclipse and big solar eclipse last month. So this enmity is still going on. So, this pastime, it has so many teachings. First of all, if you want something that is very valuable, then it will not come in your hand just like this, very easily. You will have to work at that, just like churning the ocean of milk. That's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Rasa Amrita, the nectar of rasa. Because if you want to taste this rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam, it will not come very easily. It will take years and years of chanting of the holy name, service to Guru and Vaishnavas. This is the churning. Slowly, 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 and then the Amrita, the nectar of rasa, will appear in our hearts. But on the way, we have to be very careful that we don't become angry or disturbed or get into fights with people. So this is very practical. This is a very practical teaching for everyone. I know now so many devotees always fighting over this and that. The world is flat or it's round or these things. They have no time to remember the Nikunja Seva of Radha and Krishna, because it's important to convince everyone in the world that it's either round or flat. You know, that's Srila Gurudev, our Gurudev. What was his bhav, his mood in relation to these things? I remember our very dear friend Pushpadanta Prabhu, way back in the late 70s or early 80s. He was with, Dravida Prabhu, his godbrother. Dravida, yeah. So, he wanted to know about the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada had just left this world. They thought, let's go and ask a senior Vaishnava who knows. Let's go and ask that Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. So from Mayapur, they crossed the river, they went over to Koladweep, and they came to Devananda Gaudiya Math. So it was at the time of the Parikrama, so thousands of pilgrims were there. And as they entered into Devananda Gaudiya Math, they saw there was our most beloved Srila Gurudev, very busy at the time of Parikrama also. So they came up to him, and with the 5th canto, all the planets and everything is all explained there. And they said, oh Maharaj, Dravida Prabhu asked him, Maharaj, can you help us? We have some questions about the structure of the universe and these things. Srila Gurudev said, if you want to know about Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then you can ask me. Otherwise, if you want to know about these things, you can ask Srila Vaman Maharaj. Srila Gurudev didn't want to get into it. Why? What is really important for our sadhana? Life is short enough. To go through the stages. Anatta nivritti, nishta rucha asakti bhav. It's not an easy thing. It will take all of our time, surrender and dedication. So to become lost in the futile controversies is not going to help us. So Srila Gurudev was just, if you want to know about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjwala Nilamani, these things, you can ask me, but otherwise you can go to another learned Vaishnava. Once one devotee came to Srila Gurudev in Mathura in maybe about 94. And Srila Gurudev told him, if you want to do bhajan, then you should try to never criticize anyone. And also, don't have an opinion about anything. Can you do it? Who is a disciple of Gurudev? Did you hear what Gurudev just said? Gurudev just said, don't have an opinion about anything. Because our auspiciousness, our benefit, our welfare isn't in this world. Try to know the Siddhanta that our acharyas have given and their method of bhajan, mahajano yena gata sapanta, and follow in that footsteps. But don't become absorbed in worldly opinions, because there'll always be someone with a different opinion and then you become entangled. You see? Because opinions, they're like noses. Everyone's got one. So we don't want to prolong our misery and suffering in this world. We want to follow our Guru Paramatma, our Guru Parampara. So Srila Krishna's Kaviraj has written, Acharyera mata ye se mata sa. The opinion of the Acharya is the essence of all opinions. So Srila Gurudev's opinion is, don't have any opinions. Chant Harinam and follow the conception, the Vichadara, the current of the conception of Rupa and Raghunath. So, where are we? Yes, we're discussing this pastime. What can we learn from this pastime of the demons and the demigods? So first teaching is that Amrita, nectar, is not something that easily comes. It's something we'll have to work at very patiently and steady without getting distracted or into quarrels and polemics with everyone that spoil the development of our mood. Because what is sadhana bhakti? It is what we do to attain bhav. What is bhav? Ruchibhishchitamasvinya. How the heart becomes soft, how the heart melts. So the polemics will not make the heart melt. So then another teaching, our acharyas have said, Yathataro mula nisechanena tripyanti tat skanda bhajopasaka pranoparahatsa cha yatendriyanam tathaiva sarvahana attuchayaja. Just as by pouring water on the root of a tree, then all aspects of the tree become benefited. Or by giving food to the pran, putting in the stomach, then nourishes the pran, the whole body becomes benefited. So in the same way, by serving the Supreme Lord, automatically everyone is benefited and all possible auspiciousness is attained automatically, simply by serving the Lord. So this is a teaching in this pastime. Why? Because the demons and the demigods are together in the same place, doing the same activity at the same time, but the result was completely different. Demons ended up with nothing, and the demigods were successful in their endeavors and they attained the nectar. So, why? Everyone is doing the same thing, but the result was completely different, because one side they were bahirmukh, they were independent and indifferent to the Lord, and the other side, though they had some motivation, they were attentive to the Lord and following His instructions and teachings. So they became successful. Now, we want to go a little bit more deeper into Leela Tattva. So, this Leela Tattva, it may be challenging and it may feel very antithetical to our intuition or our worldly sensibilities. And this is why we have to hear Siddhanta very, very patiently and very submissively, so that the sound of the Shastra and the instructions of sadhus can cut through our misconceptions and enter the heart. So the question here is, why? What is the cause of creation? Why does God make this world and then come here and do different pastimes here? So, Vidura posed this question to Maitreya in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says that the creation of the world cannot be Leela. The Supreme Lord cannot do it as a Leela, just as a play. Why? Because, take the example of a child. A child plays either to fulfill a desire or because he's impelled by another child. Now the Supreme Lord is Atmaram, he's self-satisfied. And he's completely detached from everything, so there's nothing can force him to do anything. So this can't be the answer. And secondly, when the Lord comes into this world, he takes the side of the demigods over the demons. Now what's the difference between demigods and demons? Demigods are in Sattvagun, demons are in Rajagun and Tamagun. So now the Supreme Lord is choosing one guna over another. That means he's involved in duality. If the Supreme Lord were Nirgun, then he would never discriminate in this way in regard to the gunas. Because Supreme Lord is a Nirgun entity. This is very important to understand. Because mainly when we think, oh, God is nice, God is kind, God is patient, we're actually thinking of sattvic qualities. And then what we do, we project these sattvic qualities onto the idea of God. And so actually this idea of God that we have is actually not Nirgun. It's not Nirgun. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam is very important. You see the pastime of Ajamil. And that's how Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies the chanting of the holy names. Through the pastime of Ajamil. So when you first hear the pastime of Ajamil, you think, this is a strange thing. You have this wicked person who was doing sinful activities, and the last moment when he was about to die, he called his son Narayan. And then God is so strange that God, he didn't know, instead of thinking, well, he's just calling his son Narayan, I'm not coming. But God gave mercy to him and sent his associates and saved him. Well, why is that? What's the teaching? Is the teaching here we can mess around and do foolish sinful activities our whole life, and the last minute we can just, if we call that dog Vishnu or something like that, then we can just call that dog and we'll be saved? What kind of theology is this? It's bizarre. No, this is the idea here that Srimad Bhagavatam is presenting, is that Sanketya, when you say the syllables of the name of God, even to refer to something else which is actually not God, but still this Nam Abbas, this semblance of the holy name will destroy your sins, inspire you to understand the path of bhakti and bring you to the Supreme Lord. And that power of Sanketya is essential. Because though Ajamil was calling his son and not God, but we may be calling God. However, our idea of who God is not God. So it's still Sanketya. You see? In actually Harinam Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses two kinds of Sanketya. One is when you call something else using the name of God, and one is when you call God. but you think God is something other than He really is. It's also Sanketya. So if the Srimad Bhagavatam is showing this, making this important point about Sanketya, if Sanketya were not powerful, then where would we be? We'd be nowhere. So bhakti begins with the chanting of the holy names, even though our conception is not clear. But by chanting Sanketya Nama Bas, then the heart does become purified and a clear knowledge, understanding comes to that devotee. That's mentioned in the Rig Veda. Om Asya Jananto Nama Chid Viviktan Mahaste Vishnu Sumatim Bhajamahe Om Tat Sat. The sages are saying, oh my Lord, we don't really know you. But we have heard that by repeating your names, Aksha Abhyas, repeating the syllables of your names again and again, then true knowledge, Sumatim, that means a clear understanding, transcendental knowledge of you, Bhajamahe Prapnumaha, we will attain just by the power of Sanketya. Actually, Sanketya Namabhas. So, here are the questions. One, why does the Lord make the world? Why would He do that? He's self-satisfied. No one can force Him to do it. And when He comes to this world, it seems like He behaves in a way which is dualistic and choosing one guna over another. So how can He do this? And another thing is that the Supreme Lord has His internal potency, which is wonderful and full of bliss and full of ras. Having that internal potency, why would He have any relationship or connection or interaction with the inferior material potency? Why would He bother to do that? Right? So these are all the questions that need to be answered. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manosam Dayam Asritaha Bhajate Tadrishi Krido Yasrutva Tatparo Bhavet, at the end of Rasalila. Srila Shukadev Goswami said, in order to give mercy to the devotees, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manasam Dayamasrita, Supreme Lord appears in this world in a human-like form to give mercy to the devotees. Kunti Devi, in her prayers to Krishna, she said, oh my Lord, you descend to this world to propagate the pure bhakti to inspire pure bhakti among the Paramahamsas, among the great devotees in this world. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna said, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashya chaduskritam. I come to deliver the sadhus. So in every case, it's described that when the Lord comes here, it's to give mercy to the devotees. This is very important to understand. He doesn't say Paritranaya mudhanam. Right? I descend to this world to deliver all the foolish, ignorant people. No. Paritranaya sadhunam. I come for the devotees. Also in the Padma Purana, they already said, Mad bhaktanam vinodatam karomi vivida kriya. I perform many variegated activities just to give happiness to my devotees. Mad bhaktanam vinodatam. Vinod means amusement, happiness. To give happiness and amusement, to give joy to my devotees, that's why I act. So, everywhere throughout Shastra, it's described that the Supreme Lord, He's coming to this world for His devotees, to give mercy to them. So then one may say, well, what can we say about this? If the Supreme Lord is coming to this world to give happiness to His devotees, then it either means that the Lord Himself is not Atmaram, self-satisfied. Or the devotees are not Atmaram, they're not self-satisfied. Or perhaps they're both not self-satisfied. They're both not Atmaram. So which one is it? So the answer is that actually it's none of those things. Why? Because Suddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryang Samyabhak Ruchibis Chittamasanya Kridaso Bhav Uchate. The devotees in this world have bhav. And what is that bhav? Vishuddha Sattva. What is Vishuddha Sattva? It is the savriti. It is the essence of Sanvit and Hladini. So the Sanvit is Krishna's consciousness, awareness, potency, and Hladini is Krishna's pleasure potency. And therefore the devotees, their bodies, their minds, their words are all of Vishuddha Sattva. So there's no question that they have any material attachment, material desire, or that they are not Atmaram. They are completely self-satisfied because they are composed of Hladini Shakti. So the devotees are self-satisfied. And the Lord himself, of course, is Satchidananda Vigraha. So he is also self-satisfied. So the fact that he comes to this world to interact and please his devotees is not because either he or the devotees are not satisfied, but it's an exchange of love. Just to exchange love with his devotee. Why? Because in order to give pleasure to someone else, to act in such a way to give pleasure to another person, you have to be self-satisfied. Right? Because everyone who's not self-satisfied never acts purely for the benefit or the pleasure of another person. They always have, like, okay, I can please this person, but I'll get what I want as well. Right? And therefore, bhakti which means acting unconditionally for the pleasure of the other person, includes Atmaramata. Atmaramata doesn't include bhakti. Self-satisfaction doesn't include bhakti. But bhakti must include Atmaramata, because bhakti is anyabhilasta shunyam, without any other desire. You see? So, Supreme Lord and his devotee, they are self-satisfied and they act out of love for each other. So, it is said in the 10th canto, Bhagavan Bhakta Bhaktiman. Bhagavan is that person who is Bhaktiman, full of devotion for his Bhakta. And the devotee is also full of devotion for the Supreme Lord. So you see, there's a very beautiful verse spoken by the Supreme Lord to Durvasa Rishi. When Durvasa Rishi was chased all over the universe by the Sudarshan Chakra, he fell at the feet of Lord Narayan, please save me, please save me. Lord Narayan was, no. Don't you have any mercy in your heart for me? No. Why? Sadhavo hridayam mayam, sadhunam hridayam taham. Madanyate na janati naham tabhyo managapi. Supreme Lord said, my devotee is my heart. So if you want mercy from me, mercy always comes from the heart. But my heart has been stolen from my devotee. So don't come to me for mercy. Go to my devotee, because that's where my heart is. And that's where mercy comes from. But what did you do? You tried to kill my devotee Ambarish Maharaj. And now you come to me and say, don't you have any love in your heart? You just try to kill my heart. So at that time, Lord Narayan spoke a very beautiful verse. He said, Naham atmanam ashase madbhakta sadubidina sriyam chatyanti kim brahman yesham gati aham para. It means, he said, without my pure devotees, for whom I am the exclusive goal of life, I don't want to, my relish, I don't want to enjoy my spiritual opulences. And I don't even want the happiness of my own swarup. Naham atmanam ashasayas. I don't desire atmanam, the happiness of my own form. Because Supreme Lord, He's Satchidananda. Even that happiness He doesn't want. Without the devotee. So this indicates 3 different types of happiness. The happiness which is present in the Swarup, in the body of the Lord, is called Swarup Ananda. And the happiness when His Ananda his Hladini Shakti comes out from his spiritual form, then it enters into his devotee, and it also, from his form, comes his dharma and his opulence. So the happiness that comes from his dharma and his opulence, and from his devotee, that is called Swarup Shaktiananda. So Swarupananda, his own joy, from his dharma and opulence, Swarup Shaktiananda. Okay. So that Swarup Shaktiananda is also divided into two parts. One is called Aishwaryananda, the joy he gets from the opulence of his dharma, and the other is called the Manasananda, the joy he feels in his heart when his devotees serve him. So Swarupananda comes from his own body, Manasananda comes from the service of his devotees. Jai Sri Radha Govinda Juti Jai. And Aishwaryananda is the joy that he gets from his divine spiritual realm. So all three of these and his relationship to them are expressed in this verse spoken to the Vasa Rishi. First, Naham Atmana Mashase, I don't want the happiness of my own Swarup. Right? So that's Swarupananda. Sriyam Chatyam Tikim Brahmam, I don't want to enjoy my opulence, is Aishwaryananda. Then without Mad Bhakta Sadhu Bibina, without my devotee. So that means that the Manasananda is superior to him than his own Swarupananda or Aishwaryananda. All the different categories are there in that beautiful verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, now, it's been established that the Supreme Lord, he comes to this world not for anyone else, not for his own benefit or anything, just to interact with his devotees and to give them pleasure. Now, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam, when someone gives mercy to someone, it can be for two reasons. Either it can be to get what you want from that person, or it can be to fulfill that person's desire out of compassion for them. So the first category is to get something for yourself, then this is not any kind of love at all. So that's rejected. Supreme Lord's Atmaram, he doesn't need anything. And the second category, to give mercy to his devotees, leads us to a wonderful subject. That is the psychology of compassion. Why does the Supreme Lord feel compassion? And to whom does the Supreme Lord feel compassion? So, the answer is this, that compassion is a movement of the heart. Our chitta, our consciousness, when we are suffering or when we see someone else is suffering, that suffering touches our heart, it moves us, and then we want to help that person. So compassion is an emotion that arises when there is a sparsh. It's called dukkha sparsh, that our heart is touched by the dukkha, by the misery of another person, and we feel that pain, and then we're impelled to help them. Now, the Supreme Lord, the happiness and distress of this world is what? Only coming from Prakriti. In Gita, many places, Sri Krishna said, Sama sukha dukkam dhiram somya tattvaya kalpate. Those who are in equilibrium in happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat, honor and dishonor, only they become qualified for Amrita, eternal nectar, liberation. Again and again he said, Dukeshvanuk vignamana sukaisu vigatas priya vitaraga bayakrodas tita demuni uchate. One who is not disturbed in distressful conditions, who doesn't become elated in conditions of success, who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Why? Because the happiness and distress of this world is just a vikar, a transformation of the elements, Prakriti. It's very important that we understand this. Our subtle body is made of chitta, then ahankar, ego, manas, and buddhi and manas. So chitta is the basic substance, it's mahatattva, and that becomes darkened by tamagun, and that is ego, and then buddhi, intelligence, and mind comes. That's our subtle body. Now what is this happiness that everyone in the world who is identifying with the body is looking for? When the senses come in contact with their objects or a favorable situation, then the chitta does prakash or ullas. The chitta becomes light, it becomes enlightened, brightened, and it expands. So prakash means some illumination is there, and ullas means it expands, right? So let's say you're like tired and cranky and everything, and then you drink a coffee and then suddenly you feel bright and your mind expands, right? So that's an example of how feeling miserable because of tamagun, there's a quick injection of rajas and you feel this happiness. So just as happiness is a prakash, an internal feeling of lightness, and ullas, expansion, so similarly dukh or suffering is a sense perception or of an experience of an unfavorable situation that causes the chitta to contract, right? Okay, so happiness and distress is nothing but expansion and contraction of your chitta. Is clear? Right? So now, the Supreme Lord, He is aprakrita, supernatural, beyond prakriti, so He's never affected by prakriti at all. Expansion and contraction of chitta. And this is why the Supreme Lord, the Paramatma in the heart, Sri Krishna said, Sammoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesyosti priya. I'm equal to everyone, I'm in equilibrium, no one is dear to me, and I'm not against anyone. That means that if you win the lottery, Paramatma is like, nothing. Not affected. And if you're like being burnt alive in a fire or something, Paramatma is also there just watching and also not affected. Right? So this is shocking. We don't want to think like that. We want to think that, well, when I'm suffering, I'll pray to God, I'm suffering, help me. And God's thinking, yeah, that's so bad you're suffering, let me help you. But that is not the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says to Arjuna right in the very beginning, Gatasan agatasan nan sochanti panditaha. Those who are learned lament neither for the living nor the dead. So if a pandit is like that, detached, then what to speak of the Paramatma in the heart? So because the Paramatma in the heart, the Supreme Lord, is aprakrita, supernatural, He is not affected at all by our worldly happiness and distress. Nothing. Sorry to say. How could He be? He's Satchidananda, He's full of joy. You cannot have a person who's in a state of constant, unmitigated, ever-increasing bliss, who's also worried about what everyone's doing in this world. Everyone's trips and problems. Then he will not be Satchidananda. So, when we think that the Supreme Lord, His mind is involved with all our happiness and distress in this world, we're actually projecting sattvic qualities onto a Nirgun Lord. So that's got to be, that's the Srimad Bhagavatam is for cleaning out these misconceptions. So, then someone may argue, yes, okay, but if the Supreme Lord doesn't know about our suffering, He doesn't know about our suffering, then He's not omniscient. He's not omniscient. So someone can argue, well, no, He doesn't know, He has no suffering personally Himself, but through us He knows about our suffering. So that's called Gata Kudyam Prabhatam. Gata Kudyam Prabhatam, which means meeting the toll officer in the morning. It's an example. There's a person, they're going to the river and there's a toll officer there. He's taking a tax. Otherwise, if you don't pay the tax, you can't cross the river. So then a person thinks, I'm not going to pay the tax. So then the whole night he goes through the jungle to find another place where he can cross the river. And he's traveling the whole night, and when he gets to this other crossing, he bumps into the toll officer there. Right? So his whole way, everything he did to circumvent the situation ended up in the same situation. Right? So if we say that the Supreme Lord is transcendental, because Vishnu Tattva means that which never interacts with the material energy. Right? Doesn't interact with the material. That's a Vishnu Tattva, is aprakrita, supernatural. Right? So if the Supreme Lord is really transcendental, and you say that yes, He has no suffering, but He knows about the suffering through us, then again, that means He would be affected by Prakriti. So you try to avoid it, but you ended up in the same situation again. So also that's not the answer. How can we respond to the challenge that if He doesn't know about our suffering, then He's not omniscient? So for this we have to have a very fine discrimination. So Charles explained that no, He's still omniscient because there are two different things here. One is called Dukkha Gyan, the knowledge of suffering, and the other is called Dukkha Anubhav, the realization of suffering. So the Supreme Lord, the Paramatma, is everywhere, in everything. In fact, the very ingredients of creation are non-different from Him. Idam mi vishvam bhagavan nivaitaro yato jagatstana nirodha sambhava. Narad Muni said to Vyasadeva, the Supreme Lord is Himself, this cosmos, and also beyond it. So the Supreme Lord is present in all the elements. So He not only does He know about the mechanics of suffering, that means the expansion and the contraction of our citta, but the very elements which are expanding and contracting are non-different from Him. So He actually knows about your happiness and distress more than you do, right? Because He's non-different from the very elements which compose the mechanics of our happiness and distress. So He knows about it better than we do. But He has no realization of what it's like to identify with those expansions and contractions. Right? Because what does it mean to identify with the expansions and contractions of the citta? It means you're in Maya. To identify with the expansions and contractions of the citta, that is Maya. Ritertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chapni. That is the definition of Maya. So when a person in this world demands that God feels our happiness and distress and therefore is moved with compassion for us, what they're actually demanding is that God should be in Maya like us. Right? So the very conception, the very idea is just inappropriate. It's an inappropriate demand. So that conception of God, that He's watching us all, and He's feeling our happiness and distress, and His heart is melting, He wants to help us, like this. Then, this is actually means that His heart will be touched by the movements of Prakriti. Therefore, He will be in. We're demanding that God is in Maya like us. And therefore because we're in Maya, we create a Mayic conception of who God is. So, if we understand that God is untouched, He has no realization of misery, He's fully Anandamoy, then just by thinking about Him, you will become Anandamoy. Right? Just think, Krishna. Right? Now you have this new conception that this Krishna is Anandamoy. Completely pure, unmitigated ecstasy. As soon as you remember Him, you become filled with ecstasy. But because we have this idea, actually, that God is really in Maya, when we think of Him, He's miserable and we stay miserable. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Right? And we're still miserable all the time, because this conception that we have of Krishna is a miserable conception. So this is why it's so important to understand what Srimad Bhagavatam is saying. So we have, as we mentioned in the beginning of the class, Dasamasya Vishuddhyatam Navanamiha Lakshanam. These other 9 topics of what is Maya and everything are being described so we can understand the ashray, what is Krishna, the shelter of everything. Otherwise we'll not clearly understand who he is. And if we'll understand by hearing, by the hearing process, who is Krishna, that he is that blissful being, when we chant his name, we'll be in bliss. And if we have a miserable misconception, we'll chant his name and be miserable. Srila Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Not chant Hare Krishna and be miserable. So you can put your hand on your heart, ask yourself what you've been doing all these years. Think. So, because the Supreme Lord is Antakara and his Chitta has no dukkha sparsh, it's not touched by the gunas, he has no Maya, therefore though he has dukkha gyan, knowledge of the mechanics of happiness and distress, but he has no dukkha anubhav, realization. Now before someone says, oh this is a horrible and unfair and cruel, if someone takes it like this, the question comes, well, where is distress? And happiness for that matter, where is it? Where does it lie?
In the mind.
So that's a good answer. But let's see it in this way. The jiva is transcendental. Aparayam itastonyam prakritim vidime param. The jiva is transcendental to prakriti. And the expansion and contraction of the chitta is part of prakriti. Now, the jiva is conscious, but doesn't expand and contract. The chitta is of prakriti, it's jad, it's unconscious, it's insentient, it has no feeling, and it expands and contracts. So where's the suffering? Where's the suffering? The prakriti has no feeling, right? And the jiva doesn't expand and contract. So where's the suffering? It's nowhere. And that's what's Maya, yeah. Where is suffering? The answer is, there isn't any. It's nowhere. Because that which is expanding and contracting, the mechanics of is jad, has no feeling, and that which has feeling, the jiva, has no expansion and contraction. So Maya is just the adhyas, that means the superimposition of the prakriti upon our consciousness. It's an upadhi, the superimposition of a designation on our consciousness. This is Maya. So the jiva is always liberated, and he's never touched by happiness and distress, but by Maya, avidya, the achincha shakti of the Lord, then he's identifying with that. But it's nowhere. So the Supreme Lord, he's not in Maya, so he can see that the jivas, they're not suffering, and the prakriti, where the suffering is, has no feeling. So he has a dukkha anubhav, but he has dukkha gyan, knowledge, what's going on, but he has no anubhav, no realization of it, and he's not moved by the material suffering of the jivas. Now, then why does the Lord come to this world? Why does he create this world? We're coming to the mystery now of our verse for the day. In order to give pleasure to the devotees. Here he said, Yada suksashu pura atmano para. When the Lord wanted to create, here the word pura means body. Right? You know, like Puranjan. Pura means city, or it means body, and the body is like a city of 9 gates for the soul. When the Lord wanted to create the world, then, and make bodies, Atmana, for himself, he breaks the equilibrium of Prakriti and the creation goes on. The inner meaning of this is, the Pura means the bodies of the Vaishnavas. When he wants to create bodies for his devotees, Atmana means for himself. The meaning is this. When the universe, everyone, pay attention.
when the universe is dissolved, there's no creation going on. But there are devotees from the previous creation who have gone through the stages of bhakti, nishta, ruchi, asakti. Now we mentioned before in relation to the churning of the ocean of milk, even though it looks like the Lord comes to this world and interacting with everyone, never. He's only interacting with his own Swarup Shakti, which is empowering different persons to assist or resist his Leela for the sake of giving pleasure to his devotees. So when the Lord wants to create the world, why does he want to do it? Because those devotees in the previous creation, in whose heart Swarup Shakti has appeared. So Shuddha Bhakti begins from Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav. They have Swarup Shakti. The Lord only interacts with them. So because the Lord is feeling separation from those devotees, and he wants to please them, and because he wants to give them an opportunity that their bhakti will become siddha, completely perfect, and they'll come back to the spiritual world, therefore the Lord breaks the equilibrium of Prakriti. So the reason, the purpose of creation is just that the Lord loves his devotee. That's it. That's it. He breaks the equilibrium of Prakriti and the creation comes about and the bodies of the devotees are made. It says he makes the bodies for himself. Why? Tomara hridoye sada Govinda Vishram Govinda kohe namama Vaishnava param. O Vaishnav Thakur, Krishna is always resting in your heart. So because Krishna wants to make an abode for himself, namely the heart of his devotee, therefore he breaks the equilibrium of Prakriti that the world will manifest so he can go and live in the heart of that devotee, to reciprocate with him, inspire his bhajan in which he feels sometimes meeting, sometimes separation, and his bhakti is increasing to prem, and then he becomes perfect and goes to the spiritual world. Now, that's the reason the world is created. And everything else is just incidental. So Srila Jiva Goswami gives a couple of examples. He says that once there were some Vaishnavas and they wanted to taste Prem Ulas, the joy of Prem. So for this they organized a big Sankirtan festival. So those Vaishnavas, they were not really expert at playing Mridanga. So they hired some drummers. They hired some drummers to come and play the drums in that Sankirtan festival. Right? So they had the Sankirtan festival. And what happened? In that big Sankirtan festival, the sins of everyone present were destroyed. The world was purified. And those Mridanga players got so much benefit also from the Sadhu Sangha. Their sins were destroyed, their lives became auspicious. But that wasn't the reason why they made the festival. They made the festival to relish prema rasa and to please the Lord. But incidentally, even non-devotees who came and were involved, they were benefited. So that's what happened. When the Supreme Lord creates the world, he just does it for his devotees. That's all he does. But incidentally, the whole creation gets set loose and we're all floating around in it. Right? Undergoing happiness and distress, but he's got nothing to do with that. He has nothing to do with that whatsoever. So, but he kills the demons, Paritranaya sadhunam, vinasha chaduskritam. That's just, even that is not to maintain dharma. That's just to please his devotee. You see, Hiranyakashipu terrorized the whole universe. Lord Nrsimhadev did nothing. Right? Didn't do a thing. When Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlad, then he appeared and killed him. And so, everything the Lord does is just exchange of love with his devotee. And the fact that he kills the demons and it maintains dharma in the universe, that's just a side effect. Just like Shishupal was a demon, he did so many terrible things. He was criticizing Krishna like anything. Right? And when he criticized Krishna, then the Pandavas jumped up and they got their swords, they wanted to attack, but Krishna said, then he... But when Shishupal saw that the Pandavas were upset about the insults he was giving to Krishna, then Shishupal began to insult the Pandavas. That's when Krishna chopped off the head of Shishupal. Actually. So Paritranaya Sadhunam, actually he just comes for his devotees. Vinasha Chaduskritam Dharma Sadhan Stapanataya, establishing Dharma and killing the demons. That's also for the devotees. So the Supreme Lord is not in any way, makes any effort in any way, shape or form to create, maintain or destroy the universe. He doesn't. The Lord does not interact with his external energy. Everything he does is just his love for his devotees and his devotees' love for him. And incidentally, the creation, maintenance and destruction of the universe and the establishment of Dharma goes on. Right? Another example is given. A person wants to cook. Right? So they go in the kitchen, it's cold and it's dark. They light the fire for cooking the vegetables. But incidentally, the fire makes the kitchen light and makes the kitchen warm. Right? The cook came to cook the vegetables. Incidentally, the darkness was dispelled and the kitchen became warm. So in the same way, the Lord does nothing to create, maintain or destroy this world. He does nothing to establish Dharma here. He's not on the side of the demons or the demigods or anything. All that is our sattvic projections. The Lord lives for love. He comes for his devotees, he has loving pastimes with them, and incidentally the kitchen gets warm. That is, he kills the demons and he establishes Dharma in this world. So, Another important point here is that the Paramatma is present in everyone's heart. But at the same time, unless you're a devotee, it's as if he's also not present. You see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani savabhutani naham Cheshu avastitaha. By me, in my unmanifest form, this whole universe is pervaded. All living beings are in me, but I am not in them. So all living beings are in him, he says, but I am not in them. And then in the next verse, then what does he say? Nacha matstani bhutani, and all living entities are not in me. Then someone could say, hey Krishna, just wait a minute. In the last verse you said, Matstani Savabhutani, all living entities in me. And now you're saying, Nacha Matstani Bhutani, all living entities are not in me. You just contradicted yourself. So Krishna says, Nacha Matstani Bhutani, Pasyame Yogamaishwaram. Just see my mystic opulence. Sachintya. He's not in them, but they're in him. And they're also not in him. Bhuta brinna cha bhutasto bhuta bhavana mamatma bhuta bhavana. So here, what is Krishna saying? That they're in him, they're also not in him. He's not in them, because we heard the Paramatma is in everyone. He said, Sarvasya chaham vritti sanivisto. So the meaning is this. As Krishna said, Sammoham sarvabhuteshu, I'm equal to everyone. No, I'm not friendly to anyone, I'm not against anyone. But ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mahi teteshu chapya. They are in me and I am in them, those who render service to me. So it's all about attachment. For example, I can say that I flew here to Alachua with Ananda Gopal Das. Right? Is it true or not?
Yes.
Yes? Well, no, we didn't charter a private jet with just the two of us. There was actually like 100 other people on the plane. Right? But still, I say, I came with Ananda Gopal. Why? Because I have no relation with them. I have no attachment or relation with them. We are devotees. We have some attachment and relation with each other. So I can say I came with him, he came with me. The others were there, but really they don't count because there's no relation. So in the same way, though the Paramatma is present, those who don't serve him have no relation with him through service. He's not there. He's as good as not there, actually. And those who have bhakti for him, he's with them. So why will the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, glance on the Prakriti, the creation, and create the world for all these jivas who, actually he's as good as not being with them at all. He has no relation with them. So his creation of the world is only expression of love for his devotee. That's all. So, what is time? This is very interesting. What is time? This is our last topic for this evening. So, in Gita, Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, in different cantos, 3rd canto, 11th canto, various places, you find descriptions of time. There are two types of time. Material time, that is called the Vishesh Vritti of Maya. It is a special function of Maya, and it's called Tatkal Anugun. When the equilibrium of Prakriti is broken and Rajagun appears, everything starts to move. So the movement of things, their creation and destruction, gives the experience of material time. So Tatkal Anugun means that time is a quality that follows as a consequence of a movement of the gunas. Right? No movement of the gunas, you wouldn't experience any material time. Yeah? Is that clear for everyone? Okay. But in other places in Srimad Bhagavatam, time is called the Ishvara Prabhav, or Ishvara Cheshta, the will of the Lord. It is his volition. Tadakshata Bahusham, in the Vedas it said, he glanced and one became many. It's referring to the creation. And glancing is a metaphor in the Vedas for having desire. He glanced with desire, with intention. And so there are two aspects of time. One is the movement of the gunas, and one is the desire of the Lord. Now, when the creation, everything is dissolved, and all the living beings, Prakriti is in him, all the jivas are in him, then the Supreme Lord, feeling love for his devotee, just wants to please his devotee, give happiness to his devotee, let his devotee relish hearing, chanting, remembering, and all the angas of bhakti, and give spurtis to his devotee, and really, so his love will come to his perfection. So the Lord wants, that's all he wants to do. And so his Kriya Shakti acts, which is his internal potency, in relation to his devotee. And so his devotees take their form in this world, and that is called the Mukhya Pravritti. The Mukhya Pravritti, that is the main force of time, is spiritual, and it's a relationship between the Supreme Lord and his Swarup Shakti. But the implication of awakening the possibility to interact with his devotees causes what is called Gun Udbhava, the awakening of the gunas. And that is the Abbas Pravritti. So the Mukhya time, the Mukhya Pravritti is God's will to enjoy pastimes with his devotees, and the Abbas of that, which is synchronized with it, is material time, that is Gunudbhava, the awakening of the gunas, and so the world comes into existence like this. And therefore it is said in the Brahma Samhita, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shaktieva Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibhati Durga Icha Anarupam Api Yasya Cha Chesta Tesa. It's the chesta, it's the volition of the Lord. Each Anurupa, in accordance with his desire, produces, here the word Chaya means Abbas. A shadow is a type of Abbas, right? So the creation of the world done by Maya, this material energy is the Chaya, the Abbas, movement of the material energy, is the Abbas Vritti of the Mukhya Pravritti, the main intention of the Lord's desire to play with his devotees. Now, I'm just going to summarize the entire class now, the main points of the class. Just 3 or 4 important points I want you to put in your pocket and keep them forever. And you'll be happy like anything. First of all, where is suffering? Where? Nowhere. Right? It's nowhere. Right? Just remember that when you're suffering next time. Where's suffering? It's nowhere. Okay? That's it. Next thing. Is the Lord aware of any suffering? No. Krishna is the embodiment of unmitigated bliss. So when you say his name, Krishna, you have to be blissful. Right? That's the next thing. Then the next thing is, we look around us, we see Alachua, Gainesville, Florida, America, Atlantic Ocean, the whole planet, the whole universe and everything. Why does it exist? Just for the pure devotees. Just for the pure devotees. This whole universe is only for pure devotees, you know. Chirakala nahi kari prema bhakti dan, bhakti bina jagatera nahi avastan. Krishna said, for a long time I didn't give prema bhakti, but without bhakti the whole universe is useless. The entire universe, you know, because sometimes devotees kind of feel like they're a member of a minority sect or something, and it like weighs on their mind, you know. Whole world is going on and I'm just part of this little group. No, you have to understand that the universe, God manifested it just for you. Well, maybe not exactly for you, but for the devotees. For those who are perhaps a little further along the path than we are, for them, for the pure devotees, He made it just for, it's not for anything else. Right? It's not for politics, it's not for science, it's for nothing, it's for one thing. It's just for the exchange of love between Krishna and his devotees. Because the Supreme Lord only interacts with his Swarup Shakti. Okay? Let's come to our next very important point. If the Supreme Lord only interacts with his Swarup Shakti, then how are we going to attract his attention? Because Samoham Sarvabhute is equal to everyone. He's not involved. He's kind of like on the plane, but he's not with us. Right? The only way we can attract his attention is to become the servant of one of those devotees for whom he created the universe. Right? There's no other way. We can cry, we can laugh, we can have all the type of sentiments. You can have every sentiment that you want. Gurudev, you say, Aranya Rodana. Right? Go in the forest and cry, oh, Krishna, help me. Right? Just crying, no one's listening. Sadanga Shanagati Hoibe Jahara Tahara Pratana Shuni Srinanda Kumar. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, those who have taken shelter of Krishna by the 6 angas of Shanagati, Krishna hears their prayers. And the B-side of that verse is, those who have not surrendered to Krishna, Krishna doesn't hear their prayers. Right? That's what it means. So don't cry in the wilderness. But the way to attract the attention of Krishna is only if we can be surrendered to and we can serve the manobhishta, the innermost heart's desire of those devotees for whom the Lord manifested this whole universe in the first place. That is our purpose. There's a lot of talk these days about find your purpose. Right? So your purpose is to find one of those pure devotees for whom the universe was created and connect with him in loving service, in a deep relationship. And therefore, by understanding this verse, that is saying, the Supreme Lord breaks the equilibrium of Prakriti to create the universe just to make bodies for his pure devotees, to interact with them. By understanding that deeply, then we can see the necessity of Guru Tattva and Vaishnav Seva, without which there's no connection, there's no possibility to connect with the Lord, because all of our thoughts, feelings and emotions are Prakrit, and He's Aprakrit, and the Prakrit and Prakrit don't mix. So, even though the Lord is incapable of feeling compassion for our suffering, the pure devotees, because they have, it is said, it's called Swapna Bhadita Nyaya, the logic of a broken dream. When the devotee comes in the stage of bhav and then prem, then he has no suffering whatsoever. But just as a person who wakes up from a dream has a vague recollection that he was having a dream previously, so he remembers, oh, there's such a thing as suffering. And so it's the devotees who Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatna Apayanam Manubipsandam Kripambudiyo paradukaduki sanatanam tam prabhamasrayami. It's the devotees who are paradukaduki. They feel the suffering of others and they feel compassion. And therefore, ontologically, the Supreme Lord is incapable of feeling compassion for conditioned souls, but His pure devotees feel compassion for them, and that's why it said, Samsara davana lalida loka tranaya karunya ganaganatvam. Krishna is the ocean of compassion, but that ocean is far away from us. And so that compassion takes the form of a cloud, and the cloud goes across the land where the ocean hasn't gone, and rains the mercy on the people, like that. And therefore it is said, Guru Krishna Rupahanya Shastra Pramani. Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karen Bhaktagane. The Supreme Lord's mercy is His devotee. The devotee is the condensed embodiment of the Lord's mercy in this world. Now if someone raises an objection, well, wait a minute, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this that God doesn't feel compassion for the suffering of the people of the world. Right? Because they weren't listening very carefully to the explanation of why that's true. But we can prove it. If you don't accept Shastra, we can prove it by pratyaksh, direct perception. Pratyaksh, direct. How is that? We all agree, Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Deenabandhu. Krishna is the ocean of mercy. We agreed on that, right? And we're also agreed that He's Sarva Shaktiman. He's all-powerful, He can do anything. And we're also agreed that He is Satya Sankalpa. That means whatever He wants becomes true in a second. Now, if God were to know about the suffering of the people in this world and ignore it, then He'd be cruel. Right? He'd be cruel. If He were to know, He'd be cruel. And we know He's not cruel because He's an ocean of mercy. So the proof by pratyaksh that He doesn't know is the fact that we're all still here. Right? Because if He knew He's an ocean of mercy and He can do everything, we'd all be delivered right now. So the fact that we're still here is the proof that He has no dukkha anubhav. Right? Now someone would say, no, well, what about Gajendra the elephant? Gajendra the elephant was being munched by the crocodile, and he said, oh Lord, I'm suffering like anything, save me from the crocodile, and the Lord came and saved him. Right? Wrong. That's not what happened. He committed offense in his previous life. Due to that offense, he was in ignorance. When he was being munched by the crocodile for thousands of years, it was burning off the reaction to that offense. And when the reaction to the offense came to an end, then his samskars of bhakti from the previous life reappeared. And then he surrendered to the Lord in bhakti, and the Swarup Shakti appeared. Then when he called the Lord, He came. So again, the Supreme Lord responds to, interacts with His Swarup Shakti, not with the material energy or the happiness and distress thereof. Right? Well, what about Nalukavar and Manigriv? Yeah, they were suffering. They was in the form of trees for thousands of years. It was 100 celestial years. So 100 celestial years is thousands of earthly years. So they fell from the position of demigods to being stuck in these bodies of trees, suffering like anything for so long. Krishna came and delivered them, right? So they didn't have bhakti. No, Krishna only interacts with His Swarup Shakti. He came and delivered them because Narad Muni gave the benediction that Krishna would deliver them. So again, it's never our suffering that brings about our relationship, or none of that is going to make any connection with God. The only connection with God, because He's only related with His Swarup Shakti, is through Gurudev and pure Vaishnavas. So all the tattvas come out of this, all this Siddhanta is coming out from the churning of the ocean of milk pastime. It is hidden there. Now, one more point, and that is time. Time. I'm looking at the clock now, it's a little bit over. Did I go too long? This is the last point. So, the hand on the clock is going tick, 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 tick. Time is passing. And we're all getting older, grey is coming in the beard. some wrinkles are coming, like that. What is this time? Right? So there's the material time, which is the Kal Anugun. It's just the result of the movement of the gunas. But that is the Abhas Vritti of what? The Mukhya Vritti, the main function of Krishna's Kriya Shakti, reaching out to deepen his relationship with his devotees. So, the actual ultimate meaning, the Mukhya Pravritti, the chief meaning of every second of time is Krishna's love for his devotee. So never forget that every moment is going on, we're just living in Krishna's love. Gaura Premanand.
Just one question. If the jiva, right, from those verses like Asam, Vanyani, Purusha, there's no connection with material.
Yes.
Prakriti, Kriyamanani, you're saying that only Prakriti is doing everything, contracting, expanding.
Yes.
What is the power or function of the identification of the jiva with Prakriti?
Yes, very wonderful. Gano yada akawa prabhavo vidiryate. What is that? Chakshu swarupam raving ikshade tada. This is explained in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll explain it tomorrow. Okay? So that's your homework, because it's late now, I don't want people to get tired. So, that's a wonderful question, and it's answered very, very beautifully in this verse. Gano yadarka prabhavo vidiryate. The relationship between the living entity, his ego, Maya, and Paramatma is all encapsulated in this one verse. So, we'll begin with that tomorrow, and then I'm not going to make you work so hard tomorrow. Right? We have to have like a bit of sugar and a bit of Corella and a bit of sugar. So we'll have more pastimes tomorrow. But as we said in the beginning of the class, what is Mat? This is Radha Govinda Gaudiya Mat. What is Mat? Mathanti vasanti chatraha iti mat. It's where students come together to study. And it's a little hard. It takes a bit of effort. It's not like a relaxing social night out with the devotee club. Right? But if you make that effort, then the return will be so huge. So huge. Our whole life will change if we can catch the deep Siddhanta of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we can approach the 10th canto, the pastimes of Krishna, without the filter of vikalpa, kalpana, imagination, which prevents us from really relishing the sweetness of Krishna's lila. Yeah. So, yes, your question.
Yes. Understanding and hearing about Srishti Lila. And you were mentioning that Krishna, he has no idea of the suffering of the jiva. But this Lila explains that Krishna, he comes into this world to save the jiva. This is part of his Lila. So how is it that I'm trying to understand and reconcile how he doesn't understand when he actually creates the situation, so to speak?
So we gave two examples to illustrate that, just briefly. And that is, though he comes to exchange love with the pure devotees, the sadhaks from the previous creation who are almost perfect, and the help that comes to all the others is just incidental, like the drummers who are hired to come to the kirtan, or like the kitchen being warmed when the person is actually just came to cook the vegetables. You see? And that was a point that Srila Gurudev was trying to impress upon the ISKCON devotees when he was first going to Krishna Balaram, to Prabhupada's disappearance in Vrindavan, that if you think Srila Prabhupada just came to this world to establish the Dharma here, then, that was a secondary thing. That's not really what the Supreme Lord's intention. So, and even Krishna doesn't even kill the demons or anything. It's Vishnu inside him. Actually, yesterday we spoke about Krishna killing Aristasura. Krishna was about to kill Aristasura, then he stopped, then he got Yamaraj to come and kill him. He couldn't be bothered to do it himself. So Krishna doesn't do that stuff, but everything he does is for rasa, the relishment of rasa with his devotees, and all the other things that go on, how the conditioned souls get helped and how Dharma is established. It's just anusangik. That means it's incidental. Yeah? And Prabhu, last question.
If love is the only motivation of the Lord to interact with the jivas. So, if we go back into Tatasa Shakti, so why would the Lord bother to create the jivas who had no feeling towards Him?
The answer is He didn't. Lord doesn't create any jivas. That's the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Natuvaham jatu nasam natam neme janadipaha. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, than all the living beings. Every jiva is anadi, has no beginning, so Krishna didn't create them. I mean, it's something needs to be digested. It's just that the material mind, because it's a product of the causal ocean, because the causal ocean is the element of cause and effect, and our mind has come out from that energy, so we always think about cause, and as soon as someone says anadi, then we have like a mental breakdown. And that's why chanting Hare Krishna is really important, because mantra means that which delivers us from our mind, which is always trying to get us involved in cause and effect, when the reality is nothing like that. Because all the energy, the internal energy of the spiritual world is achintya, right? But the energy of the material world, Sayam Bhagavato Maya Yanyayena Virudyate, Sri Kapil Dev said that the material energy is Nyay Virudha, contradicts logic. So don't think that the spiritual energy is inconceivable and the material energy is conceivable. The material energy is inconceivable as well. And the energy in the middle, the Tatasta Shakti, is Achinto Yam, Achedyo Yam. Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, the soul is Achintya also. So the actual true nature of all of these things is realized through bhajan. So though the words are there, jiva is anadi, it's correct. But to conceptualize it with the material mind is very difficult. We have to allow... Achintya doesn't mean that you can't properly conceptualize it. It means you cannot conceptualize it independently. But if we allow our buddhi, Veda buddhi gamya, that's the meaning of achintya. If we allow our intelligence to be guided by the Vedic statements unresistingly, then we can catch the right idea. So don't try to resist. Jiva is anadi. Krishna Boli say Jiv, anadi rupahimuka. We'll be discussing this also in more detail, your question, and I'll expand on that more over the next few days. First part of the class each day will be some tattva, and then we'll discuss some lila. I don't want to torture you too much, and then all the numbers will go down. So, so thank you for your kindness and your patience, for listening. So the summary at the end of the class, I hope you noted down all the points, deliberate on them. You will feel just very ever-increasing joy by deliberating on them.
You mentioned
11.
Which one?
Chapter in Canto 11, it would be the answer to
Gano yadhaka Gano yadhaka Prabhavo Vidiryate. Then Chakshu Swarupam Ravim Ikshate Tada. Just note, if you look it up, it will come up. Unfortunately, I can't remember every verse number as well as the verse. Kali Yuga brain.
You've got a great Kali Yuga brain. I want your